Caitlin Clark for treating DeWanna Bonner without mercy. Booing of DeWanna Bonner by Indiana Fever fans has become a major problem. DeWanna Bonner was on the sidelines because she was too afraid to confront the music. DeWanna Bonner was not given to us. Kahleah Copper eventually found herself upon the podium, griping about the crazy things that Fever supporters were saying in the press. She is subjected to insults, but we have her back, you know. Well, it's simply really disgusting. For the fans of Fever, all the smoke. What has this league benefited from DeWanna Bonner? This was going to be a hot WNBA matchup. Prepare yourself for a tirade. DeWanna Bonner was hit by alcohol as soon as she set foot on the Indiana court. Caitlin Clark completed the remaining tasks. She dissected the Bonner was revealed by Mercury, who made a statement with the game. It was more than a game, it was a basketball, in a soap opera. Leave a 100% in the comments if you agree with Caitlin Clark. In the WNBA, Clark has solidified her position as the most well-known player. Caitlin Clark will be playing for 10 years. You have 10 years of the worst she will ever be. Thus, in my opinion, they possess all or the most of the leverage. Gainbridge Fieldhouse erupted in icy, bitter alcohol, not cheers, as soon as DeWanna Bonner arrived wearing that Phoenix Mercury shirt. DeWanna Bonner booing has become so bad. Fans of the Indiana Fever are pouring alcohol on DeWanna Bonner, allowing her to hear it. This was no ordinary welcome back moment. This fan base was in possession of receipts. Yes, it's kind of what you have to expect in athletics, isn't it? Indiana's major offseason acquisition was Bonner. The opening game against the Phoenix Mercury's DeWanna Bonner intended to instill leadership in a youthful squad led by Caitlin Clark. However, after only 9 lackluster games, scoring a meager 7 points on average, and not establishing herself with the team, she left. After several players suffered injuries, DeWanna Bonner left the Indiana Fever during a difficult period. Didn't spend much effort on it. It was 9 games. She only played that with the Indiana Fever, requesting a trade. Probably more than any other circumstance in the league and throughout the season, this one in particular has irritated me. She disappeared for personal reasons and reappeared in Phoenix a few weeks later, where she reunited with her partner, Alyssa Thomas, forcing your way into a squad that has her life partner on it, the Phoenix Mercury, who are a title contender. Fans of Indiana felt deceived at that point. The supporters won't be pleased if you don't depart on your terms. That's what they did tonight, you know, they remembered. It simply sounds as though I can have what I want when I want it, regardless of the consequences. Sign a maximum contract. In other words, you sign a maximum contract that prevents you from signing any other major free agents, and then you just say, I quit, after 5 games. What has this league benefited from DeWanna Bonner? They also made sure she heard everything when she returned to that building. DeWanna Bonner's actions are similar to those of Kevin. Compared to Kevin Durant, it's worse. But the heat wasn't limited to the fans. Bonner followed suit. She was seen on camera responding to the crowd. Alyssa Thomas, one of her teammates, even began applauding back at hecklers. Actually, DeWanna Bonner hasn't said anything about this. Kahleah Copper was the one who made this statement. However, her partner, Alyssa Thomas, who was the Mercury's top scorer, chose not to attend the post-game interview. The Mercury were penalized for her absence, claiming Bonner left to play for a legitimate team. According to Alyssa Thomas, she departed to play for a legitimate team. She was stating it to admirers who were essentially jeering at DeWanna Bonner. During the postgame, Kahleah Copper jumped in to defend Bonner's dismissal, calling the crowd repulsive. When the media boos her, Kahleah Copper starts saying crazy things right away. The situation was exacerbated when Kahleah Copper spoke out against that fan base on alcohol. She is a legend because of what she has done for the league. Oh, and just the lack of respect. I simply can't get into it. They jeered her, She didn't say anything to the crowd, that's for sure. She gets trashed by folks, but we got her back, you know. However, given what their fan following is doing, it's just really disgusting. The media availability of Kahleah Copper during the postgame really kind of fueled the flames, the ignorance of the mechanics of sports. It's not fair to leave a team in the middle of a task and expect a standing ovation upon your return. People were burning LeBron's jerseys when he left Cleveland. Every time he returned to Cleveland, he was jeered by the crowd. Joel Embiid made the decision to play for the United States rather than France, and alcohol was presented to him because it seems that he expressed interest in playing for the French national team before choosing to represent the United States. There is a significant and somewhat shocking lack of professionalism, not in Indiana. The crowd reacts with alcohol when Sophie Cunningham simply enters the court, is announced, or does anything else. I assume that Sophie Cunningham is receiving these drinks because to her potential. Furthermore, even if the Mercury hurried to save Bonner's reputation, I believe that in athletics it's kind of expected. Yes, I believe she handled it well. That's just the way sports operate, you know. You're going to your old house, and usually if they don't depart on your terms, the fans won't be pleased. So sure, Caitlin Clark didn't need to say a word. She let the fans handle the energy and waited for her moment on the court to respond the way only she could. By delivering cold, calculated payback, the Indiana Fever defeated the Phoenix Mercury, and it was the first time they had to face DeWanna Bonner since she abandoned the field. That's what they did tonight, I guess. Group. The basketball was surgical, if the alcohol were personal. The Indiana Fever's game plan was so well executed from the second quarter on that it appeared to be a postseason declaration. Winning wasn't the only goal here. Sending a message, specifically to the woman who abandoned them, was the goal. Additionally, Caitlin Clark was the focal point of everything, directing the match, increasing the pace, and revealing every defensive weakness Phoenix attempted to conceal. Defense was the first step. This game was handled like Game 7 by head coach Stephanie White. Players trust Stephanie White to play with her, and I understand why. She is a strategist. She benched struggling veterans like Kelsey and abandoned traditional rotations. Mitchell. Almost no contributions from the duo consisting of Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark. She basically said to Kelsey Mitchell, "Kelsey, you have stunk sit for the second half." She also heavily relied on a 6-player team that featured incisive, eager players like Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hall. She made the brilliant choice to place Aaliyah Boston on Alyssa Thomas. It broke the Mercury's flow completely, but it didn't stop Thomas from scoring. The Fever took a risky move. Isolate Thomas from the rest of the team while allowing her to obtain her numbers. She scored 32 points thanks to Fever, grabbing offensive rebounds and scoring points. The Fever. That was their strategy. That's precisely what took place. Despite Thomas's career-high score, her squad disintegrated around her. You can see from Alyssa Thomas's stat line that she had 32 and 15. Nothing can be taken away. Despite being one of the WNBA's most physically demanding players, Alyssa Thomas is charming and gentle in other ways. The whole offense of Phoenix went into overdrive. They made forced passes, hurried shoots, and were frequently lured into early fouls. Sammy Wickham and other important shooters were stopped from deep by the Fever's tough on-ball defense. They genuinely thought that this was the strategy the Indiana Fever used. Sammy Wickham won't be able to defeat us from 3. As a result, Thomas had to take 22 shots, which was well outside of her comfort zone. In the end, she committed 8 turnovers. We're getting 8 turnovers from Alyssa Thomas, made numerous unintentional turnovers. Not just forced robberies, however. She sent a lot of reckless off-target passes straight into the crowd, as if the people were her teammates. They were unable to complete even after the Mercury discovered attractive things. They had been shaken by the Fever defense. Additionally, Caitlin Clark turned that disorder into energy. Phoenix was constantly punished by her ability to scan the court, manage transitions, and hit shots in stride. All of the players I listed and everyone else who filled out the stat sheet appeared at various times during the game, and their contributions are important. The Indiana Fever's performance in that game was undoubtedly a statement. Every error made by Mercury turned into a Fever rapid break. Every careless Indiana gained momentum from possession. Then came the pivotal run in the second quarter. It was unrelenting but not ostentatious. The Fever went from being 9 points behind to taking the game by storm. Alyssa Thomas had 3 consecutive turnovers in a short period of time, including 2 consecutive passes that were thrown into the stands. The Mercury weren't merely under duress, they collapsed after being outplayed. Since her arrival, Mercury has not been the well-oiled machine that they were before she arrived. Additionally, Caitlin Clark was already planning the next run while Phoenix attempted to reorganize. Defensive switches were prompted by her off-ball mobility. Wide-open looks were the result of her court vision. She was commanding every play even when she wasn't scoring. One Mercury malfunction. The Mercury, meantime, was unable to locate answers. Despite having NBA expertise, coach Nate Tibbetts refused to change his game plan. He did not go into zone. They lost money because he failed to modify the coverages. In instance, Nate Tibbetts came from the NBA, so I believe he has some understanding of how this moves. And to be honest, I'm very happy he said that. I am relieved that he did not portray the entire organization as a group of ninnies. During the break, the Fever persisted in tormenting them, and the Mercury simply continued fouling when they attempted to retaliate by becoming rough. Phoenix appeared exhausted by the fourth quarter, both physically and mentally. This victory wasn't the only one. It was cold-blooded retaliation. With the Mercury, 107 points. In every significant area, the Fever defeated the Mercury. Caitlin. Clark made a read, a pass, or a push that demoralized Phoenix every time the game appeared to be getting close. This included rebounds, mistakes, and transition scores. The Mercury was busily slapping back and whirling at fans. Clark was vicious, poised, and locked in. It was more than just Bonner's comeback by the end of the third. Kalia Copper starts saying crazy things in the media right away. Dana Bonner returns to the Indiana Fever with a huge L. This was going to be a hot WNBA matchup. What has this league benefited from Dana Bonner? Fans of the Indiana Fever are pouring alcohol on Dana Bonner, allowing her to hear it. Elisa Thomas and Dana Bonner are too afraid to confront the truth. Prepare yourself for a tirade. Dana Bonner booing has become so bad. It was about how Phoenix was made to appear like a squad that didn't belong on the same court by Caitlin Clark of the Fever. And nothing made it more clear than how Indiana transformed a tense game into a complete breakdown. Exactly where Bonner had once deserted the fans. Melissa Thomas discussing the racist and violent nature of Indiana Fever supporters. The one where Bonner throws up this ooga booga bullshit and then watches as Tosh slaps her immediately after. It was more than simply a basketball game by the time the fourth quarter arrived. It became a metaphorical conflict between the past and the future, between responsibility and entitlement, and between the ascent of Caitlin Clark and the collapse of Dana Bonner. We saw more than just a victory on the scoreboard. The WNBA's entire energy changed at that point, and it was hard to overlook who was responsible for that change. Clark, Caitlin. Let's commence with Bonner. Her homecoming was humiliating for someone who had once entered Indiana as a much sought-after, off-season acquisition. Her own performance was what truly silenced her, even though the alcohol was loud. Missing wide-open shoots and clanking threes off the edge of the backboard, she appeared disoriented on both ends of the court. When you shoot threes, stop hitting the side of the backboard and just making minor contributions in the form of attitude and body language. She once turned and mouthed something back in response to a fan's heckling. Unmistakable evidence that the sound had entered her mind. Natasha Howard beat her shot at this point. That's when the spiral really started. She changed. Her body language. She ceased to move away from the ball. She arrived late for her rotations. She had the appearance of someone who preferred to be somewhere other than on that court. However, Caitlin Clark thrived in her element, while Bonner sank under the strain. She wasn't playing her typical game. She raised it. The Mercury started to have issues with every item she touched. When she didn't have the ball, she moved constantly, causing defenders to chase her across screens until she would either pull up from deep or threaten to pass like a rocket to an open teammate. She is a legend because of what she has done for the league. Furthermore, I simply cannot tolerate the rudeness. They jeered her. She didn't say anything to the crowd, that's for sure. She was the target of some nasty remarks, but we managed to win her back. However, given what their fan following is doing, it's just really disgusting. Phoenix had to overhelp due to her weight on the floor, and Clark always made them pay. It was everything summed up in one play. Phoenix eventually attempted a trap to slow down Clark in the late third quarter. Near the half court, two defenders closed. She immediately made a no-look bounce pass between them, discovering, for an easy bucket, Lexi Hall is cutting down the lane. The audience burst out. Bonner didn't even turn to assist when the Mercury froze. Standing with her fists on her hips, she watched as the younger generation rendered her obsolete. 1 rebound, 4 points, no assists, and no steals. She had a 25% field goal. Oh no. It was more than just Clark's playmaking, though. It has to do with her mental fortitude. The drama never affected her, not to the stress of Bonner, not to fans who chirp at Alyssa Thomas. You can't spend the entire game chatting with fans. You can't say such things and then keep your head down. Not to mention Kahleah Copper's post-match justifications. Clark was emotionally imprisoned and focused on her work while the Mercury were emotionally collapsing. That night, she was more than simply a player. She was in charge. And as the game came to a close, the camera captured a striking image of the fever rising. Clark stood near half court, gesturing to her teammates as Bonner sat still on the bench. 2. Maintained self-control, yelling the last defensive switch like a symphony conductor. That contrast made all the difference. While one star was rapidly rising, the other was dropping. There's more than that. The fans of the Indiana Fever did jeer. In the end, Kahleah Copper discussed the alcohol with DeWanna Bonner. At the platform, Kahleah Copper voiced her displeasure with the Fever fans. She is subjected to insults, but we stood by her, you know. Well, it's simply really disgusting. DeWanna Bonner was not given to us. There is nothing left for the Indiana Fever to ruin DeWanna Bonner. She's ruined DeWanna Bonner. On the opposite side of her, Caitlin Clark was energizing the audience. On the sidelines was DeWanna Bonner. Enter DeWanna Bonner. The fans of the Fever jeer at her. The fan connection. The crowd erupted in delight as well as encouragement as Clark scored. She did more than just play well. She was the epitome of what Indiana supporters were looking for in a player: fire, loyalty, grit, and poise. Additionally, when Bonner clearly disappointed, she jogged off the floor after the final bell. Instead of receiving alcohol, she received indifference, which is the worst insult in sports. Someone had taken her place. Tonight, DeWanna Bonner will not be speaking to the media, and by a better leader as well as a better player. To be honest, I have nothing to do with that. I believe DB came back because we were playing Phoenix. Well, that just so happened to be that. The supporters did what they wanted to do, but for us, it's important to focus on our task, which was to come in and win big. We succeeded in doing so. Bonner didn't need to be verbally attacked by Clark. She executed it with time, vision, feet, and heart. The microphone was the scoreboard. The applause came from the fans. Regarding their leadership, chemistry, and preparedness to take on this new generation of stars, the Mercury left with more questions than answers. The Phoenix Mercury wasn't the only thing Caitlin Clark destroyed. She revealed them. She issued a remark regarding the league's future, as well as who is currently in charge, and DeWanna Bonner learned the hard way that Indiana supporters would not forget. Caitlin Clark never forgets who abandoned her squad, and Indiana recalls everything. People, particularly the new fan base, will remember this aspect or stain on it. The audience that wasn't always aware of DeWanna Bonner's past. It wouldn't be expected of fans to jeer a member of the opposing team. DeWanna Bonner expected alcohol when he returned to Indiana. However, she had a reality check about basketball. In addition to defeating Phoenix, the Fever buried them. She didn't need to trash talk Caitlin Clark. Her game spoke for itself. This was her court, her moment. From the first roar of the audience to the last bell, and her retaliation, Indiana just made it very evident who is in charge now in case there was ever any question. Furthermore, Caitlin Clark is just beginning.